You are entering the bonus stage, a podcast produced by gamers.
For gamers, console and PC alike.
Your host Marauder
and Phoenix923.
Welcome to Bonus Stage.
Greetings and welcome to Bonus Stage, a podcast produced by yours truly, Marauder. And I am joined as always by my co-host Phoenix923.
Hello.
It's been a while, but we're back with another episode of our popular podcast. I am stretching the definition of popular.
Totally YouTube famous now. We got a whole 5 people that watch this.
I got 8 hits on my last video that weren't me. So that's basically how well I'm doing. How are you doing? Anyway, nobody cares. So, yeah, I thought we'd talk about a couple of topics. Number one being E3. Now, rather than recap the entire show, because, it's been a couple months since then, and
pretty sure everyone else has covered it in great detail.
Yes, everyone else probably has covered it many times over. So what Phoenix came up with was just picking out a title that they announced that you're excited about and just talking about it. So I'll let Phoenix go first because this was your idea. Go ahead.
Well, I'll just say, can you guess what mine would be?
Is it Persona 5?
Yeah.
Oh, it's Fire Emblem Cross Shin Megami Tensei?
Yeah.
That's the only reason I haven't technically sold my Wii U yet.
Yeah. Me and my brother are big Persona / Shin Megami Tensei fans. And when we were talking to each other, we basically go, so who's going to buy it? And he just kind of shrugged his shoulders and go, whoever has the money at the time? Yeah.
Who's ever not broke that week?
Whoever isn't broke the week it comes out. But no, I'm really looking forward to it. Mostly because it looks like a Persona game. I watched the Nintendo Direct of them showing like various areas of the game, and yeah, it does give off a very heavy Persona vibe. I don't know, I guess it's just in the Persona series in general, or Shin Megami Tensei series in general. I absolutely love the battle system in these games just because you're generally always at a disadvantage whenever you're fighting the enemies, so then you got to exploit their weaknesses to gain the advantage in the fights, and I'm glad to see that that whole concept was also brought over into this game. Not to mention, even though I'm not particularly fond of Fire Emblem games, just because they're not my type of games, I don't feel like I'm gonna be lost playing it. Just because I don't play the Fire Emblem games, because pretty much from what it looked like, the Fire Emblem characters are either, well, they would basically be considered like your I don't know what it was called. I don't know. You take your characters take some form, and then they kind of have the likeness of the Fire Emblem characters, where I would kind of attribute that to like the whole Persona thing, where you would summon your Persona and fight the enemies, and then certain bosses are, I guess, bad guys from the Fire Emblem series, like they showcased the first boss in the game, which I think was called he was basically the Mad Lord Crom in Fire Emblem.
Yeah.
He was the first boss. They showed him off, and yeah, no, it's just, like I said, it looks like a Persona game. I'm really excited to get it, just because I love anything Persona. Says the person who's going to be spending about $160 in the same day.
Oh yeah, you pre-ordered the
I pre-ordered the Dance All Night Special Edition, which is like $80, and then I pre-ordered the Persona 4 Anime Complete Collection edition, which is like another $80, and both are coming out on the exact same day. No regrets.
No, of course.
So, but yeah, no, I'm really excited for that game. I can't wait to play it and just watching that. I was just so excited the entire time watching that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose I am looking forward to the Fire Emblem Cross Shin Megami Tensei game. And yeah, it looks more Persona than Fire Emblem because I've played not every Fire Emblem game that's come out over here. I missed the one on GameCube. But I've played all the other ones, and yeah, it's a lot less Fire Emblem, a lot more Persona. So, and trust me, even I don't care about the story in Fire Emblem that much. It's like some kingdom needs help with something, and I'm here to do it.
Your kingdom is at war with this other kingdom. Fight.
Yeah, it's all up to you. You are the only one with a pointy sword stick thing. I'll be interested to see how that game comes out because I mean, it'll be interesting. From the gameplay I saw, it just I don't know. It left me really curious. Okay, so the game I chose, which I was gonna pick Fire Emblem, whatever that next one's gonna be called, but honestly, all I saw was the opening cinematic, which I saw like last year too. So whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I was also gonna pick Devil's Third, but they didn't actually show anything from that game. So yeah, I mean, I'm still looking forward to it. And supposedly, it's coming out like sometime in August in Europe, and then it's supposed to come over here at some point, but they don't have a release date for the US yet, which has left some people to think that Nintendo's just not going to publish it over here. But I don't see why they would do that when it's already in English.
Yeah.
And they need games on their system. They just do. Like, they funded the game. It wouldn't take long to publish the damn thing. But the one game that got me at least somewhat excited was Yokai Watch on the 3DS.
Oh yeah.
It seems like it reminds me of Pokemon, except instead of like running around in a field to capture the little creatures, you end up having to look around, like under cars and in alleyways and in trash cans, that kind of thing, and actually find these little demons or yokais or whatever they're called. And I don't know, it just looks cute and fun and kind of different from the Pokemon formula. Obviously, I think it's borrowing from it, obviously, with the whole capturing demons thing. But I mean, yeah, it looks fun. I hear it's a big thing in Japan right now, so it's actually kind of exciting that it's coming over here. I forget who publishes it. Is that Nintendo that's putting that out? I keep forgetting.
I don't know.
Either that or it's like Namco Bandai or something weird like that. But yes, that is what I am excited for at the moment. Actually, I'm going to look up Yokai Watch real quick. Oh, it's level 5.
Yeah.
It's being developed by level 5.
Yeah, level 5.
Yeah. So, hooray! And I think it's actually published by Nintendo. Yeah, it's published. Well, in Japan, it was published by level 5. In North America, when it comes over here, it's going to be published by Nintendo themselves. So that's good. Yeah. Cute looking art style. I like the anime looking art style of it, so I'm excited.
Mm-hmm.
There were a few other games that obviously I was interested in, but that was the one that really stuck out for me. Anyway, so moving on, I read an interesting article on Nintendo Life about basically, I want to say Sega sat down with Famitsu. Yes. The CEO and president of Sega, I'm going to mispronounce this terribly, Hayami Satomi? Anyway, basically apologized for how shitty Sega is at the moment. And being a massive Sega fan as I am, and a massive Sonic fan as I am, damn right, you should be ashamed of yourself. And the quote he says is, "We did our best to build a relationship of mutual trust with older fans of Sega." I'm raising my hand right now, by the way.
Uh-huh.
But looking back, there have been some titles that have partially betrayed that trust in the past 10 years. Which I think he means Sonic, but I'm not sure, because obviously he doesn't say. Quote goes on, Sega in the 90s was known for its brand, but after that we've lost trust and we are left with nothing but reputation. For this reason, we'd like to win back the customer's trust and become a brand once again. Since we're seriously considering quality, I love that line. Since we're thinking about putting out games that don't suck ass,
We're just thinking about it.
We're thinking about it. I can't make that promise for the time being, but I believe we will announce something for the home console at Tokyo Game Show, which is in September. So, come September, Sega's going to announce something. I think it's going to be a new Sonic game. Because really, what else would it be? After Sonic Boom just blew up in their face as bad as it did, I can't imagine it would be anything else. But the thing that made me want to talk about this article was Sega with the Sega Genesis was just a massive game maker. Like, they just pumped out game after game after game after game, and they were all pretty good, if not great.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like Alex Kidd and Phantasy Star and Golden Axe and Streets of Rage and Echo the Dolphin and Vector Man and Dynamite Headdy and Gunstar Heroes and just anything they had their hands on to publish. It was like amazing. I like this one quote. I cannot remember where I heard this from before, but somebody said it at the time. It was like, every year or so, Nintendo would drop an A+, and Sega was hitting you with B pluses the entire year long.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's basically it. Sega has all of these IPs that they are just not using at all. I haven't seen a new Streets of Rage. I haven't seen a Dynamite Cop. I haven't seen a Virtual Fighter yet. You think they'd have a Virtual Fighter on PS4 and Xbox One?
Yeah.
But they don't. The last one was on 360, and it was an early 360 game too. So I don't know. Like, I kind of want Sega to get back to. Now, the whole thing about quality, that should have been the goal from the start.
Yeah.
Back on the Genesis and even the Dreamcast, the Saturn not so much, but then again, that was really Sega of America's fault, not Sega as a whole. But especially on the Dreamcast for Sega was amazing. I mean, they couldn't have had a better swan song, in my opinion. I mean, on top of the great third-party games on the Dreamcast, Sega had stuff like Choo Choo Rocket and what's that one? Space Channel 5 and the Sonic Adventure games, which were good, and just any number of other games like frickin' Skies of Arcadia.
Yeah.
Shenmue. I mean, just they're really, really good at making games. And then when they became a third-party developer, it's like they no longer gave a shit. And they tried. I will admit, they tried when they first, switched over to being third-party. They had, they re-released a lot of Dreamcast games on the GameCube, on the Xbox, on the PS2. They revived Shinobi. They revived a bunch of other franchises like that. They republished Skies of Arcadia on the GameCube. But then they had things like Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg, which I thought was a really fun game on the GameCube. And then they did nothing with it.
Yeah.
Although he shows up in the driving series, the Sonic Racing series, because they need an ice level, damn it. And who does the ice levels? Why, Billy Hatcher, of course, because he was a thing. That's the thing about those racing games too, is like I feel so ashamed for playing those games because half of those characters, if you were not playing on a Genesis and if you were born circa 2004,
You would have no idea where any of these characters came from.
yeah, you would have no idea who these people are. It's like I'm driving around as Bonanza Brothers. The freaking Bonanza Brothers are in the game. Nobody knows who the Bonanza Brothers are because their last game was on the fucking Genesis. I'm just saying. Or, and it's like you could do new versions of these games. You could do another Vector Man. You could do another Golden Axe. Okay, well they tried, but Golden Axe Beast Rider was not a good game.
Not really a Golden Axe game.
No, it wasn't really a Golden Axe game. Gilius Thunderhead was in it. That was about it.
Uh-huh.
I bought it for $5 on Amazon just because I was like, I'm curious. And it's $5. It's not a good game. Yeah, if they wanted to, if they really sat down and put in some effort, they could pump out. Maybe not everything would be an A+ per se, but they would have games that were fun and maybe original. I would like another Phantasy Star, please. A new Phantasy Star RPG, not an online MMO. No, I want a single player story driven Phantasy Star.
Yeah.
That's basically it. And the best thing is nobody's doing that sort of art style right now. If you look at Phantasy Star, it's like medieval mixed with sci-fi. Nobody's really doing that art style right now. Well, I suppose kind of Final Fantasy, but they've been doing almost everything to try to make that series appealing again.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like I really hope that Sega understands what they have to do and then does it. I would love to see some revivals of old games. That's just. I hope they're not pulling my leg because, yeah, that's basically it. By the
Well,
way, did you know there was a canceled Vector Man game on the PlayStation 2?
no.
Yeah, when they first became a third party, they started to show off all these like, hey, we're working on this, we're working on that, and I remember there was a video of Vector Man for the PlayStation 2, and then it just never came out. Granted, the video didn't look too great, so maybe it was one of those things where the game just was shit and they knew it ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
But it still would have been like, oh man, that'd have been awesome. But oh well. Although to be fair, they also did come out with the Yakuza series. And on the PS2 there was Blood Will Tell, which I really liked. So not everything Sega's done has been terrible. They really need to fix their quality control. All right, well, that's the news segment. Oh, do you agree?
Yes.
Yes. Sorry, I know you're more like I'm more the Sega fan, so like I can just go off on something like that.
Uh-huh. Well, here's what I think they should do, and Jim Sterling kind of put this forward when he talked about this. Stop trying to reinvent the wheel. Just go back to the classics. If you want to make a Sonic game, just make it a side-scrolling Sonic game. Because apparently all this classic stuff is really popular. A lot of people are backing projects like that. I can never remember the name of that Castlevania thing.
Oh, Bloodstained.
Yeah, that Bloodstained game, the ukulele
Shenmue.
game, Shenmue. Yeah,
Shenmue 3 is like blowing the lid off Kickstarter. It actually crashed Kickstarter.
the day it came out. Yeah, people want this classic stuff, you know, as evidenced by all of that. So just go back to classic Sonic. If you want to make them in, 3D, make a 2.5D type of side scroller thing, but just focus on that. Don't do the whole, tube worlds, parkour, special powers.
Yeah.
Granted, Sonic Colors was really good, but I just
Sonic Colors was good, yeah.
I just think that kind of stuff just kind of gets in the way.
I was playing some Sonic Lost World on the Wii U, and it took me a good 20 minutes to figure out the controls again, because it's like, oh, he has a gas pedal in this game, that's right. You have to hold the trigger to keep him running.
Yeah.
And it's like, I kind of like the idea of that, where if you need to stop, you can. But his default setting should be go.
Yep.
Not stop. You should hold down the trigger if you want to walk around. And then I don't know. Yeah, so, and also they bought Atlas recently.
Yeah.
So they have a pool of very talented game designers and programmers and all that over at Atlas that I don't think they're utilizing as well as they could be.
Yeah, no, they just kind of bought Atlas, and then Atlas has been doing their own thing.
Which is good. I don't want Sega
like I said, which is fine because, they're working on Persona 5 and Shin Megami Tensei X Cross Fire Emblem. They're doing their own thing, and Sega's not really dipping their hand too deep in there, but they're just not utilizing their resources now.
Yeah, I mean, they have another company, Atlas, that is really popular over here right now that they could maybe get a few ideas out of.
Yeah.
Maybe get some input on some things. I'm just saying, it honestly seems like a very, very underutilized resource that they have there. So, anyway, Sega, do more stuff. Stop being shitty. Start actually being good again. By the way, this is kind of an offshoot of this whole thing, but you know how you said, like, just go back to the classics. The classics are what's selling. Like, everybody wants another Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Everybody wants another Banjo-Kazooie. Why is it that companies? I think they're not doing these things. They're not doing these games anymore. And the thing that pisses me off is it's because everything needs to be innovative. They like to use that word innovative, and it's like, it doesn't need to be innovative. It just needs to be fun.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the Mario games that Nintendo puts out. Look at Mario 3D World versus Mario 64. It's like, neither game is really, well, okay, 64 was innovative, but I mean, the newest Mario game on Wii U, it's not innovative. It's just fun.
It's just another Mario game, but it's fun.
It's just a well put together platformer that's a lot of fun to play, and that's all that you really need to have at the end of the day, is a game that people like to play, because if people like to play it, people are going to buy it. And if people buy it, you make money. It's really not that hard. Don't try to, like Jim Sterling said, don't reinvent the wheel with Sonic. Just make Sonic games. Just find a formula that works, which they did with Sonic Generations and Sonic Colors, and just do that. Stop making him turn into a werewolf. Stop making him run around in circles when he should just be running forward. I don't get it.
Yeah.
It's like every other. And by the way, do you think Nintendo would have released a game like Sonic 06?
No.
That's where Sega, I think, just dropped the ball. Like, they were going kind of down in the PS2 GameCube era, but when they hit 360, that was a plummet. And I don't think they ever recovered from that.
Well, like I said, I think they were just trying to jump onto the whole 3D bandwagon, at that time, and they just couldn't do a 3D game.
Yeah. Well, Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2, those were good. Maybe not perfect, but good.
They're fun.
They're fun. They're fun. They're good games. They have their issues, but whatever. But yeah, Sonic 06 was like a train wreck. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I bought a 360 so I could play Sonic 06. That's how much of a Sega fan I am. I saw it, I wanted it, I bought the system to play it.
It's almost as bad as a Persona fan I am. Pretty much buying a PS4 just for Persona 5.
I pretty much bought a PS4 just for Persona 5. I'm right there.
Well, that and Kingdom Hearts 3. Those are about the two that I really want to play.
Yeah, Kingdom Hearts. I could never get into that series. Everybody says it's fun, but there's 12 games now or something you have to play.
And they're all pretty much canon.
And they're all pretty much canon across multiple systems and handhelds.
Yeah.
So moving on, Phoenix923 again had an interesting idea for a topic. Just go ahead and explain what we're going to be talking about.
Honestly, I don't know where this idea came from. It was kind of stewing in my mind a long time ago. Back when I was playing Pokemon X and Y. And I was just mostly thinking, it's
this game's like the other ones.
Yeah. But I'll just say it, okay? The soundtrack wasn't all that memorable. I didn't really like it. And so then I was sitting here thinking, I go, well, why don't we talk about just one game each for which game has the most memorable soundtrack and which game has the least memorable soundtrack. And yeah, we've been kind of meaning to do this for the last I think 3 podcasts, but I think we got distracted.
We just keep forgetting about it, and then we don't do our research. And then, yeah, we don't have our answers, and then it's like, well, let's drop it for next time.
Yeah.
But now we're going to talk about it.
And then 2 months later.
Yeah. And 2 months later, here it is. Here you go. It's all right there for you to take. Anyway, yeah, I thought that was a very interesting idea for a topic of discussion. And so I really had to dig through a lot of my games for the first part of the question, which is a game that has a very memorable soundtrack. And there's so many. I mean, there's just so many. Obviously being a retro gamer, you got Super Mario and Journey to Silius and Batman, just anything on the NES made by Sunsoft at the time or Nintendo, they're all great. Or even things made by Sega on the Genesis, like Streets of Rage 2 and Shinobi 3, and just countless examples of good soundtracks, great soundtracks. But I'm going to have to settle my favorite game soundtrack ever is probably going to have to be Sonic Adventure 2. Because it is my favorite game of all time, so I've played it a lot, so I know all the music.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly in the goddamn Find the Emerald sections where you're running around for a half hour looking for these stupid emeralds.
Yeah. I told you I stopped playing that game because of that stupid secret base rogue one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I stopped playing that game just because I couldn't stand that.
No, I don't blame you. It took me a while to figure that level out. But what was really funny was I was playing the HD remake on Steam when you were over once, and you're like, I think I was in the Meteor level as Rouge, and you're like, wait, so these things get more complicated? And I'm like, yeah, it's pretty complicated. And you're like, oh, fuck this.
Yep.
I would have never made it this far.
Nope.
I don't know what it is about that game that I love it so much, but like I said before, I try to explain it, and it's just all comes out garbled. I don't get why I like that game so much. It's just weird and oddly broken in a way that reminds me it's a game. Like, it's a game that's just fun.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it's obviously not great. But it's my favorite. Anyway, yeah, the music in Sonic Adventure 2 is amazing. Each level has its own unique track to it. I think all the boss fight music's the same, so whatever. And obviously, you have classic Sonic songs such as like on City Escape and Live and Learn, and even the menu music. Everything's great. Even the little chimes that play when you get to like the Chow Gardens. It all just fits together so well, and if you play a track from that game, I can tell you exactly what that track is and where it is in the game. It's that good. And it's a little bit weird too, because they mix up a bunch of different genres. Like, they have rock music for Sonic, or at least really, upbeat guitar music. And then they have for Knuckles, they have rap music. Cause okay. And then for Dr. Eggman, it's more of like generic. I don't want to say generic, but more just your, action kind of music going on.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some upbeat, some evil sounding music, the boss music's pretty good. I don't know, just it all fits together really, really well, and I love that soundtrack to death. So that's at least my most memorable. Is just all of Sonic Adventure 2. So, which one is your most memorable one?
Do I have to say it? Earthbound.
Persona 4?
Nah, Earthbound.
Earthbound.
For as much as Persona 4 has pushed its way to my number one list in RPGs, Earthbound's music, just as you say, you play any track and I can tell you wherever that song is played. I can do that too with Earthbound. Like I don't know what it is about that soundtrack, because even the very first time I played it, like the songs immediately got stuck in my head. It was they're just so catchy, they're upbeat, and as you said with Sonic, they really fit the situations. Like I don't know, I'm not much of a music guy, so I don't really know what else to explain with these.
Yeah.
But the soundtrack is just so good that, like whenever I watch like a YouTube video and someone has an Earthbound sound or sound music in it, I instantly recognize it. Any type of like thing from, say, Super Smash Bros, where they have a remix of it, they're generally really good. It's just, the music is just great, and I'd recommend anyone just to kind of either play the game or just look it up on YouTube, just the different music, and just listen to it, because it's very different from what I would consider normal game music at the time, because it's generally a little weird, which
it's certainly not your typical RPG music.
Which also kind of fits the game as well, because that game itself is also really weird and quirky. But no, that soundtrack, like, I honestly can't think of anything that would beat that. Like, I knew that I would probably stumble across a good RPG. It would be really hard to beat Earthbound, but Persona 4 did it. But the music, no. I think Earthbound will stay number one in terms of my soundtracks forever, just because it's just so good.
Yep. No, I've played Earthbound on occasion, and the music is slightly off-putting, but very memorable, very catchy, and yes, very appropriate. I kind of equate it to if anybody's ever watched the Twilight Zone, the old black and white Twilight Zone, where they play that music, the intro music to it, and you are entering a world, a door, whatever. That's kind of what it. That's kind of what I think of with Earthbound soundtrack. Is it's meant to make you seem like you're not where you should be, that you're entering some sort of a world where nothing is quite what it should be because you have a kid in a baseball cap
which is extremely funny because that game's setting is modern day.
Circa 1994.
Well, whatever.
But yeah.
It's
much more modern.
It's not in a fantasy, swords and sorcery setting or a futuristic setting. It's more closer to modern day ish,
Right. But yeah, it always made me feel like, okay, you're in your house, but there's something wrong.
Yeah.
There's something not quite right. And then you start running into aliens and a whole bunch of weird stuff. So it's like, okay, all right, I'm in. I'm up for this. What's going on? And yeah, it's pretty good. Anyway, so moving on to the soundtrack that's not as memorable. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that the soundtrack is bad. If what our choices are upset you, it's our opinion. Chill out. Maybe we just don't recall these as well as we do our favorites, or even some of the more memorable ones from our past gaming experiences. This one took me a long time to think of because it's obviously if it's not a very memorable one, it's hard to remember when you sit to think about it.
Yeah.
But eventually I settled on Streets of Rage 3. And the reason I say Streets of Rage 3 is because Streets of Rage 1 has a very good soundtrack. Not great, but it's good. It's got good tracks for each level. It's memorable. When a boss is coming. It's catchy. Streets of Rage 2 is perhaps the greatest example of music or musical capability of the Sega Genesis, and possibly one of the best soundtracks of all time, and was pretty much tied for my favorite soundtrack of all time. Hell, there's even video on YouTube of the composer of Streets of Rage 2 soundtrack at a nightclub in Japan DJing the soundtrack to Streets of Rage 2.
Jeez.
That's how good the soundtrack is of Streets of Rage 2. But when you go to Streets of Rage 3, I can't recall anything about the music in that game. I've played it. I've played a lot of it. I can't tell you. All I remember about that game was there's a robot guy. Was there a kangaroo in that game too, I think? And then there's guys with guns that are ridiculously unfair. And that's it. That's all I remember. I don't remember anything about the music. And that's a shame considering the other two games have, some of the better music on the Genesis, or, like I said, maybe even some of the best music of all time. So, Streets of Rage 3, I just can't remember anything about the music in that game. So, how about you? Anything? What is your least memorable?
Well, I've already said it, explaining this topic, but I guess it'll be more or less, the recent Pokemon games, X and Y and Omega Ruby and Sapphire. I don't know, okay, I'll just say this: I absolutely love, the Pokemon soundtrack. Just all the games' music is really good. But
like the original GB versions, or
all of them. Like I listened to, hell, like the last one that I played before, X and Y was Platinum, and then the one before that was Pokemon Yellow. Like seriously, I skipped over like so many games, like in terms of me playing them. But I would always go back and listen to the soundtrack to each and every game, and just the soundtracks have been just really, really good. But then, I've started playing Pokemon Y, and I don't know what it was. It just more or less sounded like it was Pokemon, but it didn't have its own identity to the song. Like it sounded more or less like music from another game, which I don't know. Did they base Pokemon X and Y off like a different game, like they did with the? Like I'm not that big of a Pokemon fan, so I don't really know. But
I'm not either, so I'm not quite sure what you're talking about.
like I know Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire are based off of Ruby and Sapphire. Was X and Y based off of another game, or is that like their own thing?
I think it's their own thing.
Okay. Well. Anyway, like I said, the music just more sounded more generic-ish. It didn't really have its own identity. Plus, not to mention the battle themes in that game were I'll just say it, terrible, absolutely terrible. The trainer music, it wasn't anything special really. Your rival music, I couldn't stand because here's what I think. I mean, this may be just me, but when I think of battle music, especially like a boss battle or a special battle, this music needs to make me go, "Oh shit, this is serious." Okay? And then it sets that tone throughout the entire fight. But the rival battle was just very quick and poppy and more or less felt like you were just kind of playing a game of tag with your friends instead of this being a serious thing, which yeah, that's kind of how they portrayed it in the game, but still, this needs to be like kind of more serious to me. And then you get to the gym leader music, which God, so bad. I'll just say it basically builds up to absolutely nothing. The music sounds like it's building up and up and up and up to something, and then it just starts repeating again, and there's just nothing there. The Elite Four music is the best battle music in the game, but it's still it's not really. I honestly can't remember how it goes. and say yeah, hum me the Elite Four battle music in X and Y. I have no idea. And this comes from someone who's played through and beat the Elite Four in that game like 20 times just because I needed a lot of money. And so I should be really familiar with it, especially since you listen to it 4 times every time. Um, the only song that I actually remember in that game is the champion music, because that one was actually really good and it has like its own theme to it that makes it a bit more memorable. But it still wasn't, that great just because it still kind of missed that oh shit feeling. This is the final battle type thing. And then I played up to like the third gym in Omega Ruby. Like like I said in previous podcasts, this is about the time when I realized why am I doing this shit again. But but in all honesty, I can't remember a single track that I've listened to in that game since then. Up to then, it's just I can't, which is a shame because, like I said, all the other games of Forum, they're really good, but it's just kind of sounds, to me they just kind of dropped the ball on it a little bit, just not as good.
Yeah, that's really a shame about the Pokemon games because back on the original Game Boy, the Pokemon games had an amazing soundtrack, considering what they had to work with in terms of the hardware and and the limitations of the Game Boy itself, each city had their own little tune, and each little uh, area had its own kind of music to it. It was really, really well done. So that's, I think you kind of considered it the same way I considered Streets of Rage, where the previous games were so good in the audio department that the newest game or the last game in the series or whatever just didn't hold up as well.
Yeah, it more or less kind of sounded more generic instead of, like I said, having its own thing.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's an interesting point of discussion. If anybody listening has like their favorites or their least memorable, do put them in the comment section. I would be really interested to know what your favorites are, and more interestingly, what your least memorable ones are. Because I'm always looking for new game music to listen to. So, yeah, do put that in the comment section below. Anyway, moving on to our last segment, and it is, of course, games we have been playing, which is a portion of the podcast where we talk about the games that we've been playing. Should have a different title, but whatever. It works. Yeah. So, I guess, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure.
Please say you.
Yeah, sure.
I was gonna say, please say you do, because I have a thing.
Because you have a thing. Okay.
I have a thing.
So, I'll just talk about the major ones that I've been playing really recently instead of the ones that from like a couple months ago. But I recently beat Persona 3, which
Wow, really?
yeah. I was really excited about that.
Now, is this the PSP remake version?
No,
or?
this is the PS2 version. Persona 3 FES. I still need to go back into it and play the epilogue because that is its own thing. It's like,
so you're not done yet. You didn't 100%.
I beat the main game, but that's like another 40-ish hours estimated from everything that I hear. And it basically fills in a lot of the gaps within some of the plot holes and within the story. But apart from the game itself, as a Persona game, that's it. It's a Persona game. You played Persona 4. It's kind of like Persona 3, but better. But it still follows the whole battle system where you got to exploit enemy weaknesses and whatnot. It's fun. It's a Persona game. My main issue with the game, however, is the game story. The game story is atrociously paced. Like, it is so bad that it was honestly the reason why it took me pretty much a year to beat it, because I've never really felt the want or need to go back and play it, because nothing within the story really made me that interested to come back to it like sooner. Pretty much major story events happen on the full moon at the end of each month. And sure, there's these little events that happen on like maybe 1 or 2 days within the month, but they mean literally close to nothing towards the story. And it's just mostly you playing 30 days before something happens, and it just drags on. Not to mention, like it took about 12 to 13 hours before I finally started getting some backstory with my characters that I was playing, that were on my team. For a good 12 hours, I didn't really care about these characters at all, which is bad considering they're on my team. And it's just the story, while interesting, It's absolutely horribly paced. Like, you could cover the entire story of Persona 3 like within 3 months of the game, but they stretch it out to, I think, so you start in March and end in January. Yeah, January. So it's like 9 months, 9-10 months of
So it's just a lot of stretching.
So yeah, there's just a lot of nothing in between. Which, like I said, Persona 4 fixed. you know, but yeah, that was my main gripe. The game's fun. I just couldn't stand the story
Sure.
because of the pacing. But yeah, now I gotta get into the epilogue, finish that up, just to get the whole story, and then then I'll be completely done with it. So then, moving on to that, I started playing Persona 4 again on the PS Vita, Persona 4 Golden, pretty much right after I beat Persona 3. And my initial gripes of the game of being a little easier are pretty much gone because yeah, because I like
that doesn't bode well for me.
No, I like the new systems that they've incorporated. They're done really well. My initial complaint with the card thing at the end of battles, I never really, I don't, card bonus or whatnot, where they would show you like 4 or 5 cards, and then they would like spin around the screen, and whatever one was closest to the screen, you push the X button, on the PlayStation 2, and then you would get that card. So then you would have to like really look and pay attention to where that card is that you want. But in Golden, they basically show you the cards, and then you pick, whatever ones you want. And I was just kind of like, well, geez, that kind of takes the skill out of it. But they've introduced a bonus for that called the card sweep, where if you can take all of the cards, the next time you get a card bonus, you'll get 2 extra choices, meaning you can choose up to 3 cards instead of just the one. And you are guaranteed a card bonus at the end of next battle. So then you can basically chain these bonuses after every battle to, basically give you better advantages as you continue through the dungeon, which, I kind of like after I got really into that. And then I do like that they changed the whole fusion system in that game, whereas you can basically pick and choose what skills you want to pass on instead of it being random. That's great. They also introduced a new character called Mary in the Velvet Room, who basically you buy skill cards from her. A skill card is a bonus that you can get from the card bonus at the end of the thing. And you can either use it on a persona, which will use up, the skill card and teach the persona that skill, or you can give that skill card to Mary, and then which will basically make you able to buy that skill card over and over and over again instead of just, relying on it dropping again. So, that's really nice. And then, oh yeah, there's new social links, new events that happen during specific days when nothing else would happen. Even though it's Persona 4 and I've already beaten the PS2 version, it feels like a new game just because of all the updates that they've done to it. So, yeah, no, and it is definitely the superior version. But
well, that's good.
But and then moving on to my last game that I've been playing a lot recently, which is Terraria. I've gotten back into that because they've updated it to 1.3, where they added the 2 new events, the Martian Madness event and the Lunar event, which is pretty much endgame content. I don't really want to spoil anything, but that last boss is really, really hard, like even on normal in my decked out gear. But yeah, no, it added quite a bit more of playtime to me. I mean, I already had like 200 hours, 250 hours of playtime with that game, and now since that update, I've played it 35 more hours, and I'm still kind of going back to it every now and then to get more stuff. So, yeah.
All right. Well, I'm gonna have to get into pursuing at some point.
Didn't you say you were
Coming
going
up
to?
shortly, nonetheless.
Yeah, didn't you say you were going to after you beat Shin Megami Tensei 4?
Yes.
Yay!
And luckily, I have beaten Shin Megami Tensei 4.
Yay!
Oh, wait, are we to me yet? My turn?
Yeah,
Can I
yeah,
go?
it's your turn.
All right. Yes. Games I've been playing. Shin Megami Tensei 4 is pretty much all I have been playing. I am not kidding when I say that. I think I beat the final boss, and my save file clocked at 75 hours and 2 minutes. Like, on the dot, even. Like, no seconds in the second column or anything.
Yeah. General standard for a Shin Megami Tensei game. Yep.
And, I'm very proud of myself, and to understand why, like, yeah, I beat a game, whatever, right? Like, you think, yeah, you beat a game. You play games all the time. You probably beat games all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but this is an RPG that was teetering on 80 hours.
Yeah.
I never, ever play through an RPG in its entirety. Well, I have on occasion, but I mean, it's out of every 10 RPGs I play, I might finish half of one a year or whatever. It's not a common thing for me. So I beat Shin Megami Tensei 4, and I cleared all the challenge quests. Well, okay, that's not technically true. When I got to the final area, they gave me a new bunch of challenge quests and stuff, and I just said screw it because I was so close to being done.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to push forward and beat the game. Yeah, so this is, I guess, kind of like a review of Shin Megami Tensei 4 now that I've actually beaten the main or the game. It is by far my favorite RPG ever. Obviously I beat it, so but it was nail-bitingly difficult. It was a constant battle to stay not only just alive, but well.
Mm-hmm.
From poisons and binds and sleep and anything else. Now, I guess I'll break this down into a couple of categories. One, the graphics. The graphics are amazing. I really, really like them. On the 3DS, they stand out really well. Basically, you have 3 different modes that you play in. One is the third-person walk-around, do stuff mode, which looks great. Now, it's a little blocky. I've read some reviews, this is before I bought the game, where people were talking about how it's very boxy, like there's not a lot of variety in the environments. Bullshit. I know every city. I know every city like the back of my hand. I know where everything is. Granted, there's not a lot of verticality in the series, but I mean, if you're being that picky, you're really trying to find something to complain about.
I'll say probably the starting dungeon is really blocky. Because, yeah.
The starting dungeon is a bit bland, I'll say that. But it's the starting dungeon. So
Yeah.
it's like, they got it easy in somehow.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Otherwise, you play in like a 2D first-person kind of thing. It's almost like a PowerPoint presentation where there's very little animation. All the dialogue, or at least most of the dialogue, is presented in still shots of the character with dialogue, most of which is voice acted actually. So at least in the main storyline. So if somebody's actually talking to you, it's probably important. Whereas if you have to read it, it's probably not important. And the other way is the overworld map, which basically represents you as like a little peg, and then all the demons as like blobs of like code or something, like blue blocks. I don't know. But yeah, it all works really, really well, and the animation while in battle is very limited, but still, I think works really well because there's just so much to look at, and what it lacks in animation, it more than makes up for in style and presentation, because each individual little demon has its own look and its own personality and the way it talks to you and what it wants from you. It's great. The gameplay mechanic of actually recruiting demons by basically bartering with them is fascinating. It's like Pokemon, except the Pokemon need, money first before they become your friend
or your life force.
Yes, or your spirit energy, or the life of another demon even, which I never gave that up because I was like, why would I kill a demon when I can just fuse it? And that's the other gameplay element, is you get these demons together, and yeah, you can level them up as like a general RPG, or more importantly, you can fuse them together to create more powerful demons, presumably. And the entire game is nothing but a micromanage of your party at that point. Like you more or less what I would do is when you get a demon, it shows which moves it knows, and then it'll show little icons underneath it that show, all right, it's going to learn 2 moves in addition to what it already has. It doesn't tell you what the moves are, but you can see like, okay, one is a heart, so that's probably a status spell, and one's a lightning bolt, so it's probably a electric spell. Doesn't tell you specifically what, but it shows you something. And then you end up, usually what I do is when they learn all the spells they have listed under them, then I just use them off. I get rid of them. I make something else. Because I want to get as many moves and as many abilities as I can before I, move on in the game. And there were like, I think 2 demons in my party that were nothing but stat holders. Like I just gave them all the best moves of stuff I thought I could use later, in hopes that I could use them later, because if I needed that ability somewhere, I had it.
Yep.
So they basically were just barrels holding moves in my party. When you level up in the game, your character personally, you can increase any one of 5 of your stats, which is your basic, magic, dexterity, strength, that kind of thing.
No defense.
And you can also, no defense. That's all based on the armor you wear.
Actually, no. There is no defense stat in that game.
Oh, I thought it was based on the armor.
Nope.
Oh well, whatever. But the thing about it is, you also get app points. App points you use in like a store to buy certain upgrades. So like, you can buy an ability that lets you talk to other demons. You can buy an ability that every time a demon levels up, it gains, +1 to strength, or +1 to dexterity, or something like that. But more importantly, what you can buy is more slots for more moves for your demons, and more slots in your party to have more demons. That's what I found to be the most useful ones. The other gameplay element that I actually really, really liked was the ability to use play coins to pay the Grim Reaper, or the what is it, the boatman on the river Styx.
Yeah, pretty much.
When you die in the game, and this will happen a lot.
A lot.
A lot. I died all the time.
Uh-huh.
You don't just get a game over. What you do is you go to basically hell, and there's the boatman of the river Styx, and he basically tells you, all right, I'm sick and tired of, doing this. I don't want to carry any more souls across, so tell you what, for a fee, I'll send you back to the land of the living, because I'm just not in the mood right now. And you can pay him either with in-game money, which is very, very difficult to get, or you can pay them in play coins, which you get from just walking around with your 3DS in your pocket. So what I ended up doing is basically walking around for a week to get 300 play coins, and then I would use the play coins to resurrect myself in the game. It worked really well. I really, really liked that.
It actually gave you a use for those play coins.
Yeah, a lot of times those play coins just pile up, and I don't know what to do with them. But
Well,
I love the idea
pretty much
of-
the only use for them is just in the whatever that Me Plaza thingy is.
yeah,
That's
that,
pretty much it. I mean, other games do incorporate play coins some way, but it's not really that game changing as it is in Shin Megami Tensei 4.
Yeah, this is way different in terms of its use. The other thing about the game is just its tone. The melancholy, morose kind of tone the entire game has. I mean, I spoke about the art style earlier, but just you get this feeling of dread everywhere you go. On top of being killed almost every single battle, or at least having the capability of being killed, you get this sense of dread. You go into a new city and it's just forlorn and it's destroyed. I mean, it's post-apocalyptic, so whatever, but it's just horrendous and it's fantastic. I've never played an RPG that looked like Shin Megami Tensei 4. I mean, you probably have, but I haven't. And I was sucked right into the world. I loved it. Some of the story. A lot of people say the story is a big negative in the game. I disagree. I actually really like the story. Now, granted, it's not paced very well. But considering that you spend like the first 10 hours of the game stuck in the first dungeon just learning the mechanics, obviously the story's not going to be very well paced at that point because, you have to get somewhere. One thing that I will admit to not liking too much is I never ever really liked navigating the overworld map. Everything was really hazy. Like all the textures were really muddy. It was hard to tell where the paths were. It was hard to tell where to go to find things. Like when you get a quest, it'll say like, okay, this is in Shinjuku. Go there. And if you don't know where Shinjuku is, it's going to take you forever to find it because you can't tell where anything is until you're right on top of it. This is alleviated so much when you start opening up terminals that go from city to city, so you just jump in a terminal and go to Shinjuku and you're there. But at other points, they're like, go to this shrine. This shrine is somewhere in the northeast. And so you just wander the overworld looking for this shrine. On more than one occasion, I had to have I was playing the game and I had my phone out with a walkthrough of, okay, this is the challenge quest I'm doing. What in the hell do I do? I had a rule. I would wander around for an hour, and if I didn't find it, I would then look it up. That's pretty much what I did. Yeah. But the best thing about this game, I mean, that's really the only big negative, is I didn't like the overworld navigation. But what kept me going in the game, and what made it, obviously something that kept bringing me back to it for 75 hours and 2 minutes, the battle system is amazing. The battle system is in depth and very, very fun. Basically, what happens is every single turn you get to attack, and whatever enemy you're fighting, if you can find their weakness and hit them with that weakness, you can crit on them and get an extra turn, or you can what do they call it? Smile or whatever.
Yeah.
Smirk. If you do well, your character will smirk, which more or less makes them invincible for the next turn. So, and your opponents can do this as well. They can get crits on you and smirk and hit your weaknesses and just get extra turns. And if that happens, that's when you die. But if you can master that combat system, and if you can get through it, it is very, very rewarding. But I've never, ever, ever played an RPG that is this hard. And I don't know why I kept going back to it, even though it was that difficult, because I think the sane part of me would have said stop, forget it, put it away. But I kept coming back because I wanted to beat this thing. I had so much fun, like I said, with the combat system and it was my fault. That was the other thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I died in a battle, it was my fault. I did that. I wasn't prepared. I didn't have the right demons. I don't have the right resistances. I don't have the right spells. I didn't play my spells properly. And that was it. It was my fault.
Which that usually happens when you get to a new area.
Yeah, you wander into a new area, you think, I'm perfectly prepared for this. Then, oh, look, a spider woman. Why is she killing me? Get off me. Oh, no, God, die. Then you gotta pay the boatman. The other thing about the game is money is very, very, very hard to come by. Basically because you can't actually get money from battles. All you get from battles is experience. That's it. In order to get money, you have to scavenge for things around the world. So wherever you go, there'll be a little symbol pops up that you can investigate to recover a relic. You then take the relic to a shop, and the shop will pay you whatever they want for the goods. And that's and doing challenge quests also. Like if you do a fetch quest, you get money. So I mean, there are a few ways to get cash. It's not as easy to do as in other RPGs because you don't get them from just generic battles. You have to actually work for your money, which is an interesting twist. The final battle, for example, against Lucifer. I got to him on Tuesday night. I got to the last area. Wednesday morning, I got to him, and I played the game all Wednesday trying to beat him. I was about level 76. He's level 99.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a couple of times where I was really close, but I didn't do it. And I was talking to our friend Sandalphon, and I said, I'm probably just going to go off and grind for a bit. Because I can't think of what else I could do that would help me win. I walk just outside of his area and run into a demon that not only reflects bullet attacks, but also physical attacks. And I thought, perfect, that's half of what that thing does. So I befriend it, take it into battle with me, and kick Lucifer's ass. Because if the attack is ever blocked, you lose not only that turn, but all of your remaining turns.
Mm-hmm.
It basically ends your entire session. And so what I would do is
Didn't you also have that type of epiphany moment when I was over that one time? When you were having trouble on that other boss?
It's been a long time. You're gonna have to refresh my memory.
The one boss that had all the corn.
All the corn.
Yeah, you were going to search for like food or corn or whatnot.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
And then you asked me what DRN meant.
Oh, yeah. It was Under each demon has a little card you can look at that says its weaknesses and whatever, and under them it'll say like neutral or weak or whatever. But it's always a 2-letter term. I didn't know what DR meant, and yeah, you said to me, you're like, it drains. That means it gains health from when it gets hit with that kind of ability. And I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. I should put her in my party because then this demon can't touch me.
Because that demon kept using that skill.
Yeah, it kept using like a fire skill, and my demons kept sucking up the fire and getting health from it. That's
and they
amazing.
lost their 4 turns every time.
Yeah, it was that's basically what happened with Lucifer. Is the demon I had in my party would block physical and gun attacks, and so he would use myriad arrows and Hades Falls or something, and it would hit the demon and stop all of his remaining turns. It's fantastic. Yeah, and that's more or less how I beat the final boss, even though I was a little underleveled. I'm pretty sure I was underleveled actually, considering. But no, I had an absolute blast with that game. Now, to be fair, I did use a walkthrough for a couple of parts, a lot of it actually. But it's what kept me going. I was so into the world and so into the atmosphere and so into the battle system. I just wanted to keep going. And I'm sorry, but I'm not going to spend 3 hours looking for this city that I need to get to. Just tell me how to get to it. So that's basically Shin Megami Tensei 4. I would give it a 9 out of 10. Like I said, the only thing I would deduct from it would be I didn't much care for the overworld maps. I thought they were really poorly thrown together. I never hated them. Like, whenever I had to go out and navigate around, I never really hated it. I just never looked forward to it. I would always use the terminals if I had to go anywhere. I would just go to the nearest terminal and jump. So, yeah. I am a fan of Shin Megami Tensei,
Yay!
and it's all thanks to Fire Emblem. Because they had a deal where if you bought Fire Emblem Awakening and Shin Megami Tensei 4, Nintendo would give you $30 in store credit. And so I already bought Fire Emblem, so I thought, well, I think I had a gift card or something, but I thought, well, I'll grab Shin Megami Tensei 4 because you get that $30 credit, so not a bad deal. And yeah, I ended up absolutely loving it. So yes, now that I have beaten Shin Megami Tensei 4, I promised Phoenix that I would get into Persona 4, which I have on my Vita. So I will have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably going to end up starting over because I'm a few hours in as it is. Like, not even 5 hours. I think I'm like 3 hours in, something like that.
That's
but
fine.
I'm pretty sure I'm going to want to start over because I'm not going to remember anything.
Mm-hmm. And then you can talk to me as you play through it.
Yes.
Because I've already played through it.
Yes, you've beaten it multiple times.
Nah, just once. But I will be getting to beat it multiple times.
Oh, well, okay. Well, you're one time more than I am at it, so.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and that's basically all I've been playing. I mean, I've played a couple other games on the Wii U and whatever, but that was the one that I dedicated a lot of my time to, especially the last couple days when I realized how close I was to the finish line. I really, really, really wanted to beat it. So, very good game. I would recommend it. Now, I do remember that once you die a couple times at first, the game will ask you if you want to go on to the easy mode.
Yeah.
And
does.
more or less what that does is it allows you to escape any battle guaranteed. Like, you can just run. Because in any other mode, when you go to flee the battle, it will give you a percentage of how likely you are to actually escape. So, like, 75%, whatever. And if you fail, you lose all your turns and the demons get to attack you again. So, I rarely ever ran away because a lot of times it just never worked out in my favor. Yeah, I didn't play it on easy. I played it on normal. And but it's nice to know that if you do end up playing it on easy, which I wouldn't doubt, or I wouldn't judge anybody if they did this, that doesn't make the game's battles any easier. All it allows you to do is run away guaranteed. You still have to fight the demons. You still have to fight the bosses. You still have to do everything you do in normal mode, except your guaranteed escape. That's it. That's the only difference. So if you think about it, that's actually the most fair way to do an easy mode. Alright, you want to be able to run back and heal whenever you want? Fine. But you're still going to have to fight everybody just like everyone else does.
They're still just as tough.
Yep. You're still just as vulnerable. They're still just as difficult. Oh, I also have to admit, and this is something in RPGs that I like when they do, is whenever you switch equipment, you get to see it. Like, in the 3D walk-around parts, your character actually looks like, you buy a helmet and he's wearing the helmet. You buy a chest piece or a breastplate, he's wearing that. You buy new shoes, he's wearing them. It's awesome. And you can, mix and match pieces. I think at the end of the game I had a white armored suit on with a dragon on the top of the helmet that just made me look like an old school fantasy knight. It's great. But at one point I looked like something out of Mad Max. With like a black leather jacket with spiked shoulders and a big flaming blue icon on the back of it. Awesome. But yeah, I like when they do that. It's not like the old school 16-bit RPGs where, hey, you got a new sword. Congratulations. Now go hit stuff with that sword in the same animation style that
Go poke it.
you had before. Yeah, go poke it. It's fine. Yep. That's all I've been playing. So, that'll wrap up this episode of Welcome to Bonus Stage. For anyone interested in the audio at the end of the last episode, that was from the game Shovel Knight. It was the... what was it? It was Strike the Earth Plains of Passage, which I'm assuming Plains of Passage is the level.
Yeah, it is. It's the first level.
Okay, good.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking of Shovel Knight, it's getting a physical release.
Yay!
Yes, and I'm picking it up on 3DS as soon as I can. Surprisingly, not Vita. It's getting Wii U, Xbox One, PS4, and 3DS, but not PS Vita. Which is disappointing because I would have, had I had the choice, I'd have picked it up on Vita.
Yeah.
Because I like the Vita better for a game like that. The D-pad's better and stuff, but whatever. I'll pick it up on 3DS. It's fine. Anyway, alright, well, that'll wrap up this episode of Welcome to Bonus Stage. I'm so happy you were able to sit through this entire thing. And I hope you had fun and enjoyed it. And if anybody has any questions or comments for either myself or Phoenix923, please leave them in the comment section below. We would like to do a Q&A segment. So whenever people ask questions, that's when we will do one. Because we need questions first. And then there will be answers. Hence the question and answer Q&A. All right. Anyway, this has been your host, Marauder.
And Phoenix923.
And we will catch you guys on the next bonus stage.
Later.